You know, there is more to life than just buying board games. There's also playing them, which is why I'm going to be taking a look at the top 25 games to demo at Gen Con 2019, because these are games that aren't going to be available to purchase at the upcoming convention. So, the top 25 games to try out at Gen Con, coming up. Welcome to this list of the top 25 games to demo at Gen Con 2019. Now, these are games that are listed in the Board Game Geek Gen Con preview as only being available to demo and not purchase. That may, of course, change by the time the convention comes around, but I'm not going through this list again because over 500 different games are listed in this preview, and going through them took the better part of an afternoon. Now, to avoid saying the same things over and over again like some sort of YouTube idiot, I'm going to avoid games that I have discussed in my top 30 games to see at the Origins Game Fair video from last month and other recent top 10s, top 5s, and other videos that I have recently put together. For the most part, I'm sure a few repeats will sneak in because I'm really excited about those games, as excited as I am about getting this intro done and getting into the list. So with that said, I'm going to keep this as brisk as possible, giving an overview of the game and a few quick thoughts on why I'm excited about it. And the only thing keeping us from starting the list is the fact that I'm still talking. But no more. Let's start with number 1. Number 1 is Adventure Games Monochrome Inc. Now, this is the first item on the list, and right off the bat, I'm already cheating and breaking my rules, because this item on the list isn't just one game, but it is an entire series of games that's being introduced. Adventure Games is a new series by Cosmos, who also make the Exit series, little escape rooms in a box. Now, in each of these adventure game titles, players are going to be presented with a mysterious story that they must unravel. Working together, the players will explore common areas, talk to people, look for clues, and combine various items to reveal the secret of the story. Now, depending on what decisions the players make, the course of history is going to change, and there's going to be no going back as you go through developing your own unique tale as you play through the game. Now, unlike the cooperative Exit game series, titles in this adventure series are going to focus on the storytelling and the discovery of the story with no time pressure. Now, that said, there's a lot of different paths that can be experienced during the game, and there's going to be more than one correct solution to the story that's just sitting there waiting for the players to discover. So, you got puzzles, you got storytelling, you got replayability to some extent, which is a pretty cool amount of stuff to be packaged into each title in this adventure series. Number 2 on my list is Aftermath. Pretty much just for the sole reason that this list is in alphabetical order, so surprise? I don't know. Anyway, Aftermath is an adventure book game in which players take on the role of a small group of critters who are struggling to survive and thrive in a big, dangerous world. Now, this world has been made a little less dangerous because humans have mysteriously disappeared. I say, good riddance. Now, the remnants of civilization are quickly being reclaimed by nature and the animals who still remain. And the critters that the players represent, known as the Providers, are a misfit ragtag group. There's a guinea pig with anger issues, a hamster that talks fast and drives faster because apparently there's DMVs for hamsters in this game. There's a small mouse with keen eyes and a lot to prove, and a mysterious vole who's borderline feral. When can I play this game? Now, these characters venture out into the abandoned world in one of 20 plus story-driven missions and side missions. So, whereas in number 1, you had neat puzzles to solve while you're telling a story, here's a story presented to you to play out. So, again, with the really interesting character descriptions of the different animals that you can play, that's no surprise why this one is on my list at number 2. Well, no, it's on my list at number 2 because it's in alphabetical order, but it's no surprise why this one is on my list at all. Number 3 is a game called Arch Ravelry. Now, I saw a preview of this one at Origins, and I instantly was hooked by the theme. Hooked, you'll see why in a second. Arch Ravelry gives you your chance to make a splash in the crafting community. Players will be given the chance to compete against their friends and rivals to craft patterns, fulfill special crafting requests, and complete projects. Projects based on yarn. So manage your textile stash effectively to avoid paying a hefty price for your basket of shame. complete the most projects, and become the envy of crafters everywhere, even Vermont. Now, Arch Ravelry is a medium-weight, competitive board game about crafting with a Euro-style victory point system. The description on Board Game Geek mentions that this game wants to kind of have the vibe of Scoville, but while being set in the colorful and crafty world of knitting and crocheting. It's designed to be approachable to families and non-hobby gamers, but includes the competitive edge of direct interaction, point scoring, and decision-making hobby gamers crave. Now, I personally have an interest in this game mostly because my wife is a knitter. See? And that's why, when I heard that there was a game coming out that was themed about knitting, especially competitive knitting, I absolutely wanted to make sure to keep this game on my radar and find out as much as possible. Because, as every gamer knows, if you can find a game with a theme that intrigues your spouse all the more, well, get that game. And number 4 on the list is Big City's 20th Anniversary Jumbo Edition. Now, this is a game coming out from Mercury Games that I have had my eye on for, oh my goodness, over a year at this point. Now, this 20th Anniversary Edition of the game increases the size of all of the plastic buildings in the game by 33% and revises the property trading rules and streamlines a few other things about the game. So, what is Big City? Well, in this game, players are going to acquire cards in 8 different neighborhoods and then use them to lay out buildings of various sizes. Some are 1, some are 2, some are 3 spaces large. Now, the points that receive for a given building is a base score plus bonuses for the buildings that are going to surround it. For example, one player may play the City Hall, which incidentally scores no points for themselves, so good job. Big City is a game that used to exist and is being brought back, so I'm really interested to see if the rules have been updated, modernized, and streamlined, while the components also have been improved with the new technologies and everything that have come into being over the last 20 years. Now, earlier this year, Mercury Games did a similar treatment with Container, and I really enjoy what they did with the presentation and the jumboification of this game. So that's why I'm really excited to see them do a similar treatment with Big City. How will it turn out? Well, the only way to find out, for now, is to demo the thing at Gen Con. Number 5 is Calico, which is a puzzly tile-laying game of quilts and cats. In Calico, players compete to sew the coziest quilts as they collect and place patches of different colors and patterns. Each quilt has a particular pattern that must be followed, and players are also trying to create color and pattern combinations that are not only aesthetically pleasing, but also able to attract the cuddliest cats. Ha! Plot twist. At the end of the game, you score points for buttons, cats, and how well you were able to complete your unique quilt pattern. Calico, I will admit, partially catches my attention because of its art style and also because it is just a different, unique theme. You know, is this going to be like Patchwork Plus? Or is this going to be completely different in the way it plays than Patchwork? Or is this actually the game Patchwork and I've just been mispronouncing the title as I read it? No one knows. It can't be known. And the only way to know for sure is to demo it at Gen Con. Number 6 on the list is Catan Starfarers. Now, much like Big City, which has been revised after 20 years and jumboified, Catan Starfarers is based off Starfarers of Catan from 2 decades ago. Now, the difference being that 20 years ago, the settlers in this case stared into the depths of the galaxy and said, I wants to go there and discover stuff. And then they did. They discovered unknown planets and a whole vast universe lying before them. Some planets had ore, carbon deposits, and other goodies available to them. Other ones are covered in ice and were barren and just not fun to hang out on a Saturday. Now, these settlers might encounter alien folks as well and start a lucrative trading empire with them, avoiding the pirates and the wormholes that, surprise, are also present in this wide universe. Catan Starfarers is a new version of Starfarers of Catan, which was originally released in 1999. That's that's 20 years ago. This game now completely revises the graphics and the game materials, it revises the rules, and most importantly, says the marketing blurb that I copied this sentence from, a variable game board that brings even more variety to exploration of space. The marketing blurb thought that that was the most important part. But to me, the most important part of being able to demo this Catan Starfarers is that I never got a chance to play Starfarers of Catan. So this is going to be my first introduction to the game at all, which is why I'm really looking forward to seeing it in more depth at Gen Con. Number 7 is Crystal Palace. In Crystal Palace, players take on the role of a nation at the time of the First World Fair in London in 1851. Players will attempt to create a buzz with their inventions using a dice placement mechanism in which the players themselves determine the stats of their dice at the beginning of each round. And the higher the number, the better, but it comes, of course, at a price. Okay? In the course of the game, dice are placed on 8 action locations, like the Patent Office, or the Reform Club, or the London Times, or the Port of London, Waterloo Station, British Museum, Bank of England, Westminster, just off the top of my head. And all of these wonderfully listed spaces are going to be used to compete for the best resources, patents, and brains that are available to put to work for the players. Now, I'm a big fan of dice, obviously, and so I'm really interested in what this marketing blurb said about this dice allocation system where the players get to choose where they put them, but it comes at a price. I love games where you have to make a decision that, well, everything I do that helps me, the more it helps, the more it also hinders me in some way. I really dig that, which is one of the reasons why I'm really looking forward to taking a look at this particular game. Number 8 is Deranged, which is a gothic, semi-cooperative adventure survival game in which players will fight rivals, horrific monsters, and their own personal inner demons. Yeah. This game is scenario-driven, and at some point during each of these scenarios, some player is going to turn into a monster. And by that, I don't mean they're going to have an existential crisis where they doubt their own being. They're going to turn into an actual bloodthirsty, rampant beast. And unfortunately, the only way for them to turn back into a human is going to be to kill another player. However, as disappointing to be on the receiving end of that as it may seem, there actually is no player elimination in this game. Instead, each death increases the level of doom going on in the game, with the player receiving a curse or other bad stuff possibly happening to the entire group as a whole. So you got to balance that. Well, we don't want you to be a terrible monster anymore, but what are we going to lose in bringing you back to the realm of humanity? Or were we the monsters all along? Now, the players may have a better chance of surviving at all if they're able to put their squabbles aside and form temporary alliances, but really, good luck in keeping any of those in place when you have other players secretly backstabbing and trying to kill each other, also known as playing any game at all with Rodney Smith. Now, Deranged includes deck-building elements, and each player has their own hidden agenda, and a modular board which includes miniatures to represent the players both as their human and deranged versions. And, as anyone who's watched this channel for more than 17 seconds knows, I'm a sucker for any game that introduces a little bit of secret alliances, negotiation, a little bit of treachery and backstabbing, so I'm really looking forward to Deranged and hoping that leaves my sanity intact. Number 9 on my list of games to demo at Gen Con is Domination's Road to Civilization. In this 2 to 4 player domino-based civilization building game, players take on the role of a primitive tribe, which they will seek to grow into a nation whose influence will echo through the ages. Players are going to do this by placing triangular dominoes carefully to expand their population and obtain the knowledge that will determine how their society is shaped over time. You know what you can do? You can use this knowledge to build cities and master skills, thus creating the legacy for which your civilization will be remembered throughout all time and space. What's more, each time a player masters a skill, it becomes one of the pillars of their society, opening doors to new possibilities and increasing their power. I dig me civilization games in all sorts of different flavors and varieties, so I'm really looking forward to this one, even though its name is really long and scrolled off the screen. I'm having trouble placing it, but it was that one right there. That one, it looks really, really interesting. I'm going to demo it if I can, at least look at it. Number 10 is an expansion for this game right here, Downforce. The Downforce Wild Ride expansion, which consists of 2 totally new tracks on a double-sided game board, along with 3D ramps and wild animals probably little plastic representations of wild animals. I doubt you're going to open up and find an opossum in your box, but wild animals that will be used over on the tracks as well. One of the new tracks is called Aloha Sands, and it features water jumps. Cars can use these little ramps I mentioned if they're moving fast enough, and they'll use the ramps to pass other cars and move more efficiently. So managing your hand of speed cars to take advantage of these ramps is going to be crucial. The other map is called Savannah Stretch, which features wild animals that are just wandering around traversing the track, blocking the way. These animals move ahead after a car passes them, making the track even more difficult to navigate for the lead car and opening up for the trailing cars so it can pay to hang back a bit before making your move. I'm keeping that take because even if I said it poorly, it doesn't change how that rule works and how neat it is and why it's on the list. So continuing on to number 11, Furry Foodies. In Furry Foodies, each player plays the part of a hungry cat who wants to sneak a snack while their pesky human isn't looking. So, with a little cunning and bat of the paw, players will push plates off a grid to collect them. But, gotta watch out and beware of broken plates, because a broken plate may crash and attract the attention of those clueless humans, preventing you, the cat, from getting more of those tasty morsels that you want to put in your little cat mouth. This game does seem to be designed for an audience that's a little bit on the younger side, but it did kind of intrigue me, and I do want to find out a little bit more about what's going on in this game at Gen Con, which is why it's added on my list. Number 12 is Iron Forest. Now, Iron Forest is a new flicking game from the authors and publishers of Ice Cool, and using their patented box within a box flicking system, Iron Forest introduces the next level, quite literally, in the flicking game evolution. Yeah, this game unfolds over a series of scenarios that make up an entire campaign. And in each scenario, the players control a unique mech and try to complete various tasks before the other players can. These tasks and goals differ from scenario to scenario, really adding a lot of variability and hopefully replayability to this game, and thus making this game one that hopefully makes all of those sore fingertips from all that flicking and hitting totally worth it. That's Iron Forest. Hopefully the pieces aren't made of iron though, because that would hurt real fast. Flick, ow! Let's not do that. All right, can we put like a little special graphic up for this one or something? Because number 13 is Lawyer Up, which is a two-player asymmetrical card game in which players take on the roles of attorneys, one for the defense, the other for the prosecution, facing off against each other in a courtroom. Now, I saw a preview of this one at Origins, and it was still very much in a prototype mode, but it really caught my attention there, along with several of the other people that were in the BGG booth doing the previews. Each case that the players will encounter during this game introduces its own unique mechanisms and story, from murder to racketeering charges. Now, Lawyer Up is a game of arguments, influence, and strategies. Players are going to start with a discovery phase where they will go through all the evidence of the case and draft cards that kind of show what they think is important for them to use to win the case. Then the players are going to take turns calling and questioning witnesses, building arguments by chaining together cards with the same symbols and earning influence. Then, attorneys will spend their influence to sway the biases of the jury to their side to win the argument. This game's theme and gameplay both seemed pretty unique, and I'm really looking forward to hopefully seeing it in more detail at Gen Con to really find out if they can actually pull this all together and make this work. So that's why Lawyer Up here not only makes it onto my list of the top games to demo at Gen Con, but also is one of my top picks on this list. And now that we have reached the midpoint of this video, an ad. Not more than a fortnight ago, I was awoken from my slumber by a nightmare in which I lived in a world in which people who watched this video did not subscribe. So please, awaken me from this nightmare I live and subscribe. Okay, that was kind of dumb. But number 14 on the list is Meccanica. In Meccanica Inc., players will make the world spotless with their tidy bots, ambitious little vacuum robots made for global domination and cleanliness. See, The problem is humans are messy, okay? We're going around just being pigs. And it's time that we got some help. The help comes in the form of Meccanica's Little Tidy Bots. This is a game of tile laying and engine building, in which each player buys puzzle-shaped pieces and then slots them together to form their own little factories. Now, the different machines all improve the tidy bots for your factory and let you build new things. You upgrade them, copy them, and do all sorts of other little stuff with your bots. Is that all there is to it? No, because there's many other little strategies that you can put into use for putting your tidy bots to good use. This game utilizes the box itself to actually let puzzle pieces drop in as they become no longer available, and it has some other kind of interesting elements that go along with it. Now, just a few weeks ago, I actually saw this sitting on a table at Origins, and I was really intrigued by the way the box was used and how all the other pieces kind of laid out and worked together. So I'm really looking forward to seeing it in more detail at Gen Con to really find out if I actually understood what I was seeing, or if I'm just totally off base and the last minute and a half should be totally disregarded. I'll find out more, and perhaps you should too before you really take what I just said about the game into consideration. But regardless, what's really important is I'm moving on to number 15. Number 15 is Mystery House: Adventures in a Box. Imagine this, if you will. Experience the thrill of an escape room in Mystery House: Adventures in a Box with me. In this game, you will find a mix of technology and tradition. Okay, whatever. In this game, you are imprisoned in this house, and the only way out is to solve all of the riddles that you will find inside of it. You're going to have to search for clues in this box, which features multiple different doorways on all of its sides. The box itself is like a character in this game. At the beginning of the game, you insert Enigma cards into the box top, and these cards will tell you a story as they're revealed and resolved throughout the course of the game. And there's also an app. Oh, the whole thing I just said, wait, hold on. Yeah, a mixture of technology and tradition. See, it's not just hyperbole, that's actually the way this game works. Told you so. Continuing on. An app will drive the players through the game and will maintain the progress of their team and their time that they do to solve it. The base game includes 2 adventures. There's Family Portrait and the Lord of the Labyrinth. There's also future expansions which will use the same base game box as a game system. So obviously, app integration, using the elements of the packaging, the box and everything itself, to also use as a foundation for expansions and variations on gameplay. Yeah, I'm really interested in seeing how this one comes together, which is why it's on my list. Okay, number 16 on my list kind of breaks my rule of not talking about a game that I've already talked about, but come on. This is Nemesis, a 1 to 5 player survival science fiction game in which players wake up on this abandoned spaceship out in the middle of nowhere with something crazy going on. Something's not right with the ship, and something's not right in the ship. You see, the ship's emergency broadcasting system states that there's a critical system failure, and the ship just cannot continue on its course. So you gotta fix that to continue on, and that's okay. However, while the crew is trying to find out what is causing this failure and fix it, they discover there is another problem. If you listen closely, other alien noises can be heard coming from various places throughout the ship. Ones that no one on the ship has ever heard before, and ones that want to eat your face. Nemesis is a cooperation game combining bluffing and backstabbing with other elements of science fiction, survival, horror, adventure. Let's be blunt. This is as close to Aliens the movie in board game form as we have been able to get since the previous Aliens board games that have come out, but I'm ignoring those for the sake of this discussion. This game has been on my radar for quite a while, and I really am interested in finding out more about it before it comes to retail this fall. And that's why Nemesis is definitely on my list of games to demo at Gen Con. Number 17 is Oni Maru. Now, Oni Maru is Japanese for Demon Circle. I didn't know that. That's scary. Now, this is a fully cooperative game where you and your allies take up arms to defend a village against otherworldly invaders. Probably a circle of demons, but that's just a guess off the top of my head for some reason. In this game, you can win, but you will only be able to win if you are able to destroy 3 villains, the Oni. Moo. Oh, but if you fail to win within a predetermined number of rounds, a gate's going to open and all of Japan will succumb to an evil shadow, so no pressure. Each round in the game begins with a preparation phase where new enemies will appear from this gate, which is in everybody's way, and the heroes will then develop new skills to try and combat what's coming through said gate. After that, each player is going to roll a set of dice and work together as a team to decide how to allocate, reroll, and sequence those dice that they have available at their disposal. Now, these dice are important because they can be used to attack your enemies directly or combined in specific sets to execute powerful techniques. So use them wisely, because then the Oni are going to use their own dice to damage the heroes, you, and then they're going to summon forth new hordlings, which they will command to attack their targets, which, if you haven't figured out by now, are also you. Number 18 is Precious Cargo. Tell me, did you know that for hundreds of years, merchants sailed to faraway lands in search of untold wealth, bringing precious cargo that was worth a fortune, if they could find the right port at which to sell it? It's true, it's a fact of life. And we all know that the shrewdest of merchants hailed from Talonis and Karuna, which I'm positive is how they are pronounced, and I'm really looking forward to being corrected in the comments below. These great nations built fleets that scoured the seas for markets that were eager to buy their most valuable of goods. Some of their ships were quick and nimble, while others were slow-moving freighters laden down with cargo that I hate so very, very much. Regardless, in the game, you are the leader of one of these countries, and to start the game, all you have is a single ship with but one wee little sail. By making clever choices, though, about which goods you trade and which ports you visit and where you colonize, and when you invest in improving your fleet, you, yes, you who fought off the Oni in number 17, you could build an empire and make a fortune for your country, whether it's filled with nimble little boats or these disgusting, big, bloated, slow boats that, boy, I hope they sink. But that's Precious Cargo, number 18 on the list, a game that seems accessible and light and fun while still having, hopefully, a little bit of depth. Does it live up to those expectations? I don't know, which is why I'm going to put it, it's already on the list. It's on the list at number 18. Way off script there. Number 19 is another expansion, this time for the Quacks of Quedlinburg, the expansion called The Herb Witches. Now, this is an expansion that I am really looking forward to, partly because it allows the game to play up to 5 players, which is awesome, and also because it adds just a lot of new stuff. You got new ingredients books, new herbs, and the introduction of these herbal witches, which just all work together to add a whole bunch more variety to this game. Part of Quacks of Quedlinburg's charm is just how straightforward it is in its push its luck mechanism. You know, you got the cards that kind of affect each round, you got the different ingredients that you can purchase and add to your bag, and of course you got, you know, you're pushing your luck to bring things out, and you don't want to mess up that balance. But what I've seen so far about this expansion is that it looks like it adds more things and more variety without screwing it all up. There's just more things to do without compounding the complexity of the game, which, if it does, is fantastic. Which is why this expansion is a solid entry on my list of things to demo at Gen Con. Number 20 on my list is also an expansion, this time to Raccoon Tycoon. It's the Fat Cat expansion, which not only adds new elements to the game, but also is a delicious little pun. Because Fat Cat not only means animals, but also is you get it. The Fat Cat expansion to Raccoon Tycoon adds new content that increases the number of players the game supports up to 6, adds new depth to the gameplay, some new components, and some new strategies that players can employ. This expansion adds 2 wildcard railroads, new meeples that can be acquired for new victory point conditions, and a whole bunch of new buildings that add new strategies and player boards, and a new set of railroad and town cards. And it's just one of those expansions that seems like that after you play with it, I don't think I'm ever going to want to play the base game without it ever again. Am I right or am I super right? Well, the only way to find out is going to be to demo it at Gen Con, which that's why I put it on this list as a reminder to, when I get there, do that thing. So it's on the list. The system works. And number 21 on my list is The Return to Dark Tower, a sequel of sorts to the original game from 1981, Dark Tower. But in this new edition, Return to Dark Tower, it's going to be a cooperative game for 1 to 4 players who are going to take on the role of heroes, as opposed to something, I don't know, mailmen? Anyway, together, these heroes are going to gather resources, raise buildings, defeat monsters, and undertake quests to build up their strength and discern which foe ultimately awaits them. And so far, that sounds pretty boilerplate for a modern board game. But while this game features traditional game mechanisms such as engine building and resource management, it pairs them with a technological interface unlike anything seen before in games. And I tend to believe this particular marketing blurb because what I have seen about how this game is being developed, it seems like they are integrating an app and a lot of actual physical, mechanical elements of the board itself that are going to react and interact with the players in such a way that they're really trying to make the game feel alive. Now, I think that Return to Dark Tower is still relatively early in its whole development cycle, and there's a lot of work left to do on it. But I think that Gen Con is going to be the first opportunity that a lot of people, including myself, have a chance to actually see the foundation, the bones of this game in the flesh. And I want to know if Restoration Games is really going to be able to pull off with this game what they did with Fireball Island and Downforce and other games that they have kind of resurrected. So yeah, I'm really interested to see if Restoration Games' board game necromancy really pays off again with Return to Dark Tower. Number 22 is another expansion, this time for Through the Ages, this one called Leaders and Wonders. Throughout time, there have been courageous women and imaginative men who've changed history, and whose legacy we carry with us to this very day. Now, this expansion will bring a ton of new content to the base game, adding new leaders and wonders and military cards and all sorts of stuff that can change the flow of history forever, raising the question if you, the player, will become one of these courageous women or men whose tales will be retold throughout our future, their future history. Oh, that was deep. All right, load up that top pick icon again, because number 23 is another one, Video Vortex. Video Vortex is a competitive deck-building game for 2 to 4 players set in a radioactive future Earth inhabited by video-obsessed mutants. So, I don't know, much like Common Day, I guess. Each genre-worshipping character must strategically employ their individual mutant powers while battling opponents and navigating game effects in an attempt to seize control of the wasteland, which apparently is... people want it. On their respective turns, players will spend energy to play special cards, power their deck with rentals from the local video store, and eject chosen cards from play to weaken their foes. Now, runtime, the measure of mutant health, is limited and unique to each character. And by advancing an opponent's runtime beyond their limit through lo-fi and hi-fi attacks, mutants collect Be Kind tokens as trophies representative of their conquest. And once 3 distinctive trophies have been collected, victory is declared by the reigning champion. Now, if you're anything like me, that description I gave was almost nonsensical. I have no idea what it was talking about. But this game's theme just blows me away. This seems to have the most innovative, creative theme of almost any game I have seen coming out at Gen Con, and I cannot wait to sit down and find out more about this Video Vortex game, see if it really lives up to I gotta admit, the exceedingly high expectations that its crazy, incredible description has led me to set for this game. So good luck to you, Video Vortex, meeting the unreasonable expectations that I have now set for you. Number 24 is Western Empires, a board game for 5 to 9 players that covers the development of ancient civilizations over 8,000 years of history. This is not just a regular game. This is a game that, no joke, can take up to 12 hours to complete. And yet, the marketing blurb tells us that it has simple mechanisms that are easy to learn. And alright, to be fair, the marketing blurb has given me no reason to doubt it, so alright, you have the benefit of the doubt, marketing blurb. How do you work? Well, in this game, players lead their civilizations as they expand and collapse from the Stone Age through the Bronze Age into the end of the Iron Age. Marketing blurb goes on to ensure us that Western Empires provides a full day of fun for larger groups. When combined with the future release, yes, there's more game coming to this because apparently 12 hours isn't enough game. We also need Eastern Empires, which can expand the game to a full 18 players, known as Mega Empires. Okay, big is one word definitely to describe this game. Now, if I get the chance at Gen Con to demo a full game of this, am I going to? No. However, this game really intrigues me. If this game's gameplay, mechanisms, and, just fun factor actually hit the mark, it might be fun to really set up a whole weekend, maybe a full weekend to actually schedule a game this epic and massive. However, it would really need to hit that mark, which is why I'm super curious to find out if Western Empires and or Eastern Empires and or Mega Empires, this whole kit and caboodle of a package of a game can really deliver what its fun little marketing blurb promises. And I'm intrigued to find out at Gen Con. And number 25 is a game with a theme that really surprised me. Zona, The Secret of Chernobyl. Zona is an adventure board game designed for 1 to 4 players. To win the game, players must reach the center of the Chernobyl nuclear power plant before other players. Because if it's one thing I want to do, it's to just rush blindly into an abandoned nuclear waste site before anyone else gets there. But this target location only opens when the other players have collected 2 secrets from underground facilities known, oddly enough, as secret locations. Oh, don't you know it's so helpful when the secrets are plainly marked like that? Even so, the players do need to hurry because there is a time limit set to this game. And when the final emission strikes, well, everything is lost, which is unsurprising because I have never been in a situation with something called the final emission in which when it happens, it's a good thing. No. Now, this is a game with a very interesting theme because it's based on an actual, factual nuclear disaster. Is it going to take this theme lightly, or is it going to deal with it sensitively, or is it just using it as a setting to create a nuclear wasteland? I don't know, but I'm really intrigued to find out how the theme is utilized in this game, which is why Zona is on the list. Also on the list, nothing else, because that's it, we're done. So let me know if you're going to Gen Con, and if so, which of the games on this list you're looking forward to demoing and finding out more about, and which games I totally neglected and didn't put on my list and should be ashamed of myself. Don't tell me that in the comments below, but instead, tell me more about these games and the other games that you're really interested in, and I will talk to you again real soon.